this has been a tourist destination for people all over the world. It's also not necessarily popular with all of the locals. Candace Taylor, I was aware of fairly recently during some debates as the gubernatorial campaign was ramping up. And she was very much someone on the more extreme kind of QAnon side.
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
The Georgia Guidestones, located in Elberton, Georgia, in the vicinity there of Elbert County, have been attacked. They were partially, but not entirely destroyed. I reached out to the sheriff's office there. I reached out to Region 11 of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, as well as their Open Records Unit and several other departments, all of whom confirmed the same thing. We can't talk about it too much right now because there haven't been very many statements released. But one of the things that I thought was very interesting as law enforcement hunts for the suspect who has destroyed like the main tourist attraction in that part of the state, I thought it was very interesting that the attack occurs around 2 months after a little known politician here in Georgia named Candace Taylor posted that if she was elected governor of Georgia, she would, quote, bring the satanic regime to its knees and demolish the Georgia Guidestones. And she started a hashtag tear them down. Had you all heard of Candace Taylor before today or maybe during the race? Yeah.
Mainly because of this, you know, I mean, the Guidestones, I think, are near and dear to all of us. And I made a documentary about it years and years ago and spoke to Wyatt Martin, who is the gentleman who is the banker that kind of was the facilitator for the whole project with the anonymous stranger, R.C. Christian. And in the documentary, he predicted, like on camera, he said, you know, I think maybe one day someone's just going to come and blow the damn things up. And it was largely his perspective was because of all the controversy surrounding them as potentially being this satanic monument. I think all of us through our discussion of this and through various other sources kind of debunked that as being a thing, but that doesn't stop people from using it. And it's been, God, going on 10 years since Wyatt said that. He's now passed away, but it did end up happening.
Well, and yeah, and I heard about Candace Taylor, spelled very strangely, Candace, from John Oliver's piece he did on the Guidestones, titled Rocks, I think. And I'd never heard of her before, and it's very weird that this happened. The timing is a bit odd, don't you think, Ben?
Yeah, we also have a documentary via Stuff They Want You to Know, building off some of your work, Noel. It was on Amazon for some time. I've been fascinated with these for quite a while before my biological family relocated to Georgia. And the thing about it is, you know, as I've always said, speculation thrives in the absence of transparency. But right now, whether or not you are fully ACAB or whether you are fully back the blue, you got to be human enough to note that the law enforcement of that area is having a rough day. So extend your empathy to them. They are inundated with calls. It proved to me again that politeness can go a long way. I'll update when I get more information that they're able to make public. But thank you to those folks. We do know that based on, I think, our various research as individuals and as a group, that this has been a tourist destination for people all over the world. It's also not necessarily popular with all of the locals. Candace Taylor, I was aware of fairly recently during some debates as the gubernatorial campaign was ramping up. And she was very much someone on the more extreme kind of QAnon side of the equation. If you enjoy a bit of political theater, and I'm not saying this is like a recommendation to vote or not vote for someone, but if you enjoy a good turn of kind of crazy phrase, then do check out some recordings of that. They were publicly broadcast on NPR and the local Atlanta affiliates like WABE.
It's just interesting how, something that I think at this point has become pretty non-controversial due to various reports and all of that is becoming a rallying point for far-right politicians. We definitely, through our research as a team and individuals, like you said, Ben, determined that R.C. Christian likely did have some mildly eugenic leanings. There are some things about it and about his writings as an individual that he did anonymously that do kind of, follow this whole separate the wheat from the chaff kind of mentality. And, we know the first guide or precept on there is maintain Earth's population at 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, which taken on its face, no pun intended, you could be seen as a call for genocide. But, as we've discussed, the Guidestones themselves were likely meant to be a rallying point for rebuilding society in the face of some sort of apocalyptic event. As we know, they were constructed during the height of the Cold War. So there was a lot of that kind of insecurity and paranoia around being blown up or mutually assured destruction. So when you take it that way, 500 million, not really a bad number to shoot for. But even then, to keep to that requires some level of selective breeding or selective, deciding who gets to have kids and how many you get to have. So there's still somewhat of a eugenic bent even then.
Right. Check out our earlier episodes. I spent some time looking at the geography there and what would be sensible. A lot of the concerns are practical. Also recommend the documentary Dark Clouds Over Elberton, which through some unethical moves, I think that's the right one, may have determined the identity of the guy going by the name R.C. Christian. But more information.
Ben, yeah. What was the determination? I'd heard about that only just recently.
Yeah, I'm plugged in, man. So what they did essentially, and I'm not passing judgment, that's for you, our fellow conspiracy realists, is they, you could say it's pretty unethical. There's a letter that was produced that had a return address on it, and the documentarians were well aware that they weren't supposed to be looking at that letter, but they got visibility on that return address, and that was their lead that broke the story.
They were with Wyatt Martin.
Right. And they worked hard on the documentary, so I don't want to spoil their work, but you can find it.
Well, it's interesting because, a big part of the film that I made and that we used a lot of footage from in the kind of version that we did as a show, Wyatt gave me a lot of the documents, pretty much all of the documents I have that did not have R.C. Christian's true identity on them. So I've got a lot of photographs and correspondences, and this letter that he kind of wrote, an open letter that he asked to be published in the Elberton paper, kind of dismissing or at least trying to explain how it wasn't this satanic monument, and everything else Wyatt burned in a barrel. And then when we filmed that for the film, and people always ask me, did you ever want to take a peek into the barrel or look through the stuff and see who the guy was, and I unequivocally say no, because A, it's disrespectful and unethical, like you say, and B, I just don't think it matters given everything about the Guidestones that we know. I don't know how that would really be of much use or interest. I think the mystery is kind of part of the fun or the kind of function even of the thing. And whether or not you believe there's some weird eugenic or occultic or Illuminati bent to it, I do think it's fascinating that someone would take it upon themselves to build this kind of high point that people could rally around in the event of a nuclear holocaust. I think that's fascinating, and we have so few things these days that are able to remain anonymous. So I'm all about maintaining that. Maybe that makes me a bad reporter. I don't know, but it's something that I thought was important.
Yeah, and as I was saying, the folks from Dark Clouds over Elberton did not share that same compunction. They went deep. They took about 5 years to do it. Would love it. I would love to hear what you think about that one, folks. Again, you can learn all the facts about it in our earlier episode. For now, I think the deal we can crack with with you, fellow conspiracy realist, is that when I get some further updates, as on the record as I can get them, regarding this situation, I'll treat it like my part of a weekly listener mail segment. So hopefully there will be more of that in the coming weeks.